and salute. Former Congressman Michael McNulty will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for our opening prayer led by Brooke Albert. Please be seated. Good morning. I'm Tim Forbes, the chairman of the Rensselaer County Honor a Deceased Veteran Committee. We're gathered here this morning to honor a deceased Rensselaer County Veteran of the month of December, and that veteran is Henry G.A. Higgett. We're honored to have with us this morning his family, which includes P.J. Higgett Jr., Dylan Wiley, a great-great-grandson, David Higgett, his grandson, Jameson McGrath, great-great-grandson, Aaron Plunko, granddaughter, Jacob Plunko, great-grandson, Bill and Linda Allendorf, great-nephew and niece, I guess. We also have a lady that's recording, Amy Modesti from the Eastwick Press. Good morning and thank you for being here. Also with us today to honor our Veteran of the Month are our Rensselaer County Executive Steve McLaughlin, Congressman Paul Tonko, representing Congressman Pat Ryan's office, Max Prime, former Congressman Michael McNulty, New York State Assemblyman Jake Ashby, our Rensselaer County Legislative Vice Chairman Robert Loveridge, the Majority Leader and Chairman of the Legislative Veterans Committee, Kenneth Harrington, our Chairman of the Legislative Veterans Committee, Ken Harrington, representing the County Sheriff, Under Sheriff P.J. Higgett, our Rensselaer County Court Judge, Deborah Young, Colonel Fisher from the Waterville Arsenal, legislators Kenneth Harrington, Robert Loveridge, Carol Weaver, Dan Casal, Mark Fleming, and Tom Grant. As we're all aware, Memorial Day and Veterans Day are special days to remember all of our veterans. This program was created to help us honor our veterans all year round. To us here in Rensselaer County, every day is Veterans Day. The Rensselaer County Honor a Deceased Veteran Program represents veterans organizations throughout the entire county. This includes members of the American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, the Veterans of Lansingburg, the Military Order of Purple Heart, the Marine Corps League, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the Korean War Veterans, the Tri-County Council of Vietnam-era Veterans, Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, the Vietnam Veterans of America, AMVETS, and our own Rensselaer County Veterans Service Agency. I will now ask Mr. Robert Loveridge to come forward and tell us a little bit about our honored Veteran of the Month, Henry G.A. Higgett.
Thank you for what you do as well, Tim, for this ceremony, making sure we don't forget anyone here in the room. I'm joined by my colleagues in the legislature. Our chairwoman is not able to be with us this morning. Good morning to everyone. My name is Bob Loveridge. I am the vice chair of the Rensselaer County Legislature. I would like to welcome all of you here to honor a deceased veteran program. We do this every month. Each month we celebrate the life and service of a Rensselaer County veteran who served the country and their county, the local community, and made a lasting impact. Today's veteran is a part of a family legacy of service to the country and to the local community that carries on today. Today we celebrate the life and service of Henry G.A. Higgett. Henry was born in 1900, and this past Friday, December 9th, would have been his birthday. He would have been 122 years old. Henry was one of 9 children born to William and Mary Agnes Glasheen Higgett. Henry attended Troy Public Schools and went on to Boston to get his license as a stationary fireman at the State Steam Engineering School. At age 18, Henry enlisted in the New York Army National Guard and served with Support Company 2nd Infantry Division for a short period of time. On December 30th, 1919, Henry enlisted in the United States Navy in Albany. Seaman Higgett served aboard the USS Eagle and the USS Sacramento, the USS Potomac, and the US Denibola. During his time aboard these ships, he traveled to Turkey, Dardanelles Straits, Greece, Italy, France, and the Hawaiian Islands, where he became particularly familiar with operations and construction of heavy cruisers of the Baltimore class. On January 6, 1928, Engineman 2nd Class Higgett was honorably discharged. Henry married his wife, Mabel, in 1927, and he returned home to her in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Together they raised 4 sons, William, Joseph, Frank, and Paul. Henry was not afraid of hard work and was committed to supporting his growing family. He was an iron worker, a meat packer and processor, and a machinist at Bethlehem Steel, where he built combat vessels for the U.S. military. He was particularly proud of the fact that he was able to build ships like the ones that he served on as a younger man. As World War II raged, Henry enlisted into the United States Navy Reserves in Boston on January 3, 1944. Henry was placed on active duty as a water tender first class and sent to training at Sampson, New York. After training, Henry was assigned to the U.S. Mount Olympus, a floating command post with advanced communications equipment used during amphibious landings during large-scale operations. U.S. Army Water Tender First Class Henry Higgett was honorably discharged on June 9, 1946. Henry was 46 years old when he was discharged. And at the same time, his oldest son, William, was also serving our country in the U.S. Army. All 4 of Henry's sons would go on to serve our country as well. Joseph served the U.S. Army, Frank served in the U.S. Air Force, and Paul served in the U.S. Army. For his honorable service to his country, Water Tender First Class Higgett was awarded the World War II Victory Medal and the American Campaign Medal. Henry once again returned to civilian life, and he and his wife Mabel relocated to Troy with their two youngest sons, Frank and Paul. Henry took a job at Ludlow Valve Company in Troy and eventually became the chief engineer at the historic Troy manufacturing business. Sadly, his wife Mabel passed away in 1948, and on January 8, 1949, Henry married Julia Raleigh, and together they had one son named Henry. Henry was a member of St. Michael's Church in Troy. He also was an active member of the Trojan VFW Post, the Emerald Club, and the National Association of Power Engineers. He was a coach for Marty Dwyer's All-Stars, a youth baseball team in South Troy. In his spare time, Henry enjoyed the outdoors, especially being near water, coaching youth sports, and attending all veterans functions. On June 26, 1950, Henry was doing what he loved best, umpiring a baseball game at Gier Field in Troy. During the game, Henry suffered a heart attack and died the next day. Henry's sudden death was a terrible shock to his family. His survivors, including his wife Julia, his sons William, Joseph, Frank, Paul, and Henry, his sisters Marcella, Grace, Loretta, Agnes, and Florence, his brother John, and 15 grandchildren. Henry was predeceased by his first wife Mabel, his parents, William and Mary Agnes, his sister Elizabeth, and his brother William. Henry is buried at St. Mary's Cemetery in Troy. Henry Higgett's time on earth was tragically cut short. But in those 50 years, he served his country and his community with great pride and established a family legacy of service to our country and our community that is reflected by his family here today. The Rensselaer County Legislature is grateful to the service of all of our veterans, both past and present. It is why we hold this ceremony each month. With the help of so many people in this room here today, we are able to do this. I would be remiss not to mention one member of the Veterans Committee that is here every month, arriving early, often with a tray of coffee in hand, and that is Henry Higgett's proud grandson, U.S. Army veteran, and Rensselaer County Undersheriff P.J. Higgett. On a personal note, it is my privilege to attend these ceremonies each month. It's very self-rewarding to be able to give back and recognize the people who have done so much to create the country and preserve the country that we have today. I have had the opportunity to work alongside multiple generations of the Higgett family with my service to the Rensselaer County Sheriff's Office, and of course I worked with PJ as our undersheriff here, and his brother David is now our chief of operations at the county jail. And when I went to work in the early 90s for the sheriff's office, their father Paul was there and served as the department's ID officer, so I had the privilege to work with all of them. Great individuals and a great family. So we want to provide thanks to the Higgett family for allowing us this honor and share the life and service of Henry Higgett, a man who played a great role in where we all are today. So thank you. And at this time, I want to introduce our chair of our Veterans Legislative Committee, Ken Harrington. Ken?
Before I make this presentation, I'd like to ask Colonel Walsh if he'd like to say a few words. Tom was in the legislature for about 20 years, retired, but continues. He's the fellow that really worked hard to keep this program rolling, and it'd be nice. You did a hell of a job, didn't you?
Thank you.
Tom, say a couple
Thank you,
words,
Ken.
sir.
Yes. I'd like to thank the Higgett family, and I didn't know your grandfather, but I did know your dad, and I met him. He took my picture when I got my pistol permit. But he started off right. He went by joining the National Guard, but then he went into the Navy. I don't know why. I guess he wanted to see the world. But anyway, we'll honor your grandfather here on the wall out here. There's when you're coming in on the left-hand side, there's plaques up there with probably about almost 200 names on it, and he will be on the plaque for this year, and he'll be honored. So again, I want to thank the family for being here today. Thank you.
Yeah, as chairman of the Veterans Committee for the county legislature, it's my honor to present this on behalf of all the legislators. I finally honoring somebody older than I am. They ride me about that here. So it's, I'm amazed. I looked at his service and I said, wow, this guy, he was in the Army. Didn't stay very long in the Army, I'm not sure, but he decided he liked ships, I guess, better than foot soldiers. So, but he was in for, then he went on for what, 8 years, a couple of terms, got out in 28. And what amazes me, here's a guy 44 years old, signs back up in 1944 for 2.5 more years. So it's, you know, he's a dedicated soldier, that's for darn sure. And it's an honor for me to present this proclamation on behalf of everyone here at the county legislature.
Thank you all. I will now ask our Rensselaer County Executive, Stephen McLaughlin, to come forward.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Tim. Thank you all for being here today on our last Honor Vet ceremony of the year. Pleasure to be with all of my colleagues in federal, state, and local government. Congressman McNulty's here as well as he always is, and he was instrumental in getting these started here in the county many, many years ago, and we're happy to continue that tradition. You know, boy, Jake and I were just saying he packed a lot into 50 years. And probably his toughest duty might have been umpiring that game. Those are, umpiring games are tough. But amazing legacy of service, which he clearly passed on. The Higgett family is well known for their service to the country and to the county. And, you know, no truth to the rumor that Kenny Harrington was in his first term when he joined the Army. Kenny thought by mentioning his age I was going to let it go, but I'm always going to hit Kenny on that. But you know, he went back in. It's amazing. He goes back in at what, 44, 46 years old, something like that. Probably because he had 4 boys at home. That it was probably more peaceful in the Navy. But he really got a lot done. It's amazing. You know, his life was short, but certainly impactful and full of duty and some amazing things that he got done. So, and to pass on that tradition, all 4 of his sons serving, his grandson serving, and continuing to serve in a different way now. So we're real thankful to be able to honor his Henry's memory here today, and appreciate you letting us do that for him. He did a lot for the community, a lot for the county. So thank you very much for letting us honor Henry. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I will now ask Congressman Paul Tonko and Max Prime, who's representing Congressman Pat Ryan, to come forward.
Thank you, Tim, and good morning, everyone. Always the cherished opportunity to join with County Exec McLaughlin and the Rensselaer County legislators to say thank you to those who have served in uniform to make this nation even stronger than its foundation. And so that service of selflessness, of strength, of courage, and of undeniable patriotism is what we reflect upon this morning as we say thank you to Henry G.A. Higgett and PJ and other grandchildren and great-grandchildren. It's great to honor your family member in such a distinguished way. Obviously, through the span of many years, starting as an 18-year-old, enlisting into the U.S. Or the New York National Guard, the Army National Guard, all the way to the span of 45-year-old as being discharged from the Navy from World War II service, committed a great number of his years to defense of this nation. And so it reflects upon a great bit of devotion and dedication that he provided. And to know that he was so involved in defending this nation and also serving coterminously with his oldest son, William, in World War II. So quite a phenomenal bit of statistics as we reflect upon his life and his contributions this morning. His spirit of community, working with the veterans organizations, and we thank our veterans who are here this morning and our active veteran like Commander Fisher from the Arsenal for their service. But to have interacted with them and to invest so much of his devotion and passion with the youth in especially sporting activities is something that adds to the life that he lived so fully. So this morning we say thank you to him for his great service. On behalf of Congressman Ryan, who Max is representing this morning, and myself, we ask that a flag be flown over our nation's capital to honor his life, his service, and to memorialize his time here on earth, which was spent so valiantly and valuably for all of us. So to Henry George Aloysius Higgett, we say rest in peace and job well done, good and faithful servant. So this morning it's my honor to say thank you to him formally here this morning, and we'll present the flag to you, PJ, and a certificate, and we'll have Max share some words.
Good morning, and thank you for bringing us here today. Thank you to the county, the committee, and to the family and PJ. Looking through the biography today, it did strike me that there were literally decades of service in a life that was tragically cut short, spanning multiple conflicts in peacetime and at war. His character seemed to be one that continuously dedicated himself to the protection and the betterment of those in his community and of his nation as a whole. And that truly struck me, and not only through his service to the military, but to his community, to just kids in the neighborhood, playing sports. One thing that also struck me, and I noticed this in some of the biographies that we have in a number of the individuals who have been honored, is that somebody will kind of be born into this region and grow up here and then go see the world and then maybe live somewhere else and come back here. And I think that speaks to the quality of the region and just wanting to be near family and be near such a great community. And we just thank you for your grandfather's service and for allowing us to be here and honor him today. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul and Max. I'll now ask New York State Assemblyman Jake Ashby to come forward for the last time.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to see members of the Higgett family, Congressman McNulty, Colonel Fisher, Tim, Rensselaer County Executive. The job that we do here, or they do here each month is an inspiration. And along those lines, what a life of service for 50 years. And you look at the dates. He may have, I don't know the day that he enlisted in the National Guard, but World War I may have been going on at that time. So he enlisted in the National Guard during World War I, and then went into the Navy about a year afterwards, and saw the world during a time of peacetime, if you will, right? And then 20 years later, after he gets back out, he goes back in 6 months before D-Day. And I think it reinforces the, obviously those themes of service, but how important stateside service can be, and what that looks like, whether it's serving in the military in that capacity, or the life that he led with his family, with his employers here, in the different groups that he was a part of. And he lived his entire life that way. He packed a lot into 50 years. And he was doing what he loved, and he was serving his community up until the day he died. It's remarkable, and it's evident here that it had an impact on his immediate family, and it's a tradition throughout that family now. You can see it ring true in future generations, and no doubt that it will continue to do so as well. So it's an honor, a privilege to be here with you this morning, and on behalf of the New York State Assembly and my colleague John McDonald, we have a certificate here for you.
Thank you, Jake. I will now ask Colonel Fisher, the commander of the Watervliet Arsenal, to come forward.
So I just like to thank everybody again for the warm welcome, and Sergeant Major, I thank you for a requisition about the 6 inches of snow for us. So when you look at your grandfather's service and your great-grandfather's service, as you walk around Washington, D.C., there's a small little hidden treasure among all the monuments that you see. And when you look for it, you'd be amazed that it's tucked away in a corner, but in a corner, because it's a monument, the war to end all great wars, and that's the World War I monument, which receives a lot less recognition than some of the other monuments when you go to Washington, D.C. But being a student of history and growing up, having your grandfather, a 3-time volunteer, not only during World War I, then in the Navy, and right after World War I, and then in World War II. That monument serves as a testament to all those great men out there who paid the ultimate sacrifice. And Sergeant Major, I won't by your first initials, I can't do that. We have a small token of our appreciation. What I find remarkable is, through that generation, through the continued service of your entire family, through his sons, great, grandsons and great-grandsons, hopefully. So for the little one sitting right next to you, have a token of my appreciation for Watervliet Arsenal. And when you look at the Army's leadership values, it's no doubt that your grandfather served those leadership values throughout his entire life, and also the Navy values of courage, honor, and commitment. Commitment to the country, commitment to his family, commitment to the community, writ large, all the way through the very end, serving the youth of the time. And so, Sergeant Major, I know you're gonna hold this, as you're going forward, but always telling the story and never forgetting. and making sure that's passed down from continues from generation to generation. Now, I will say one thing he got right. He joined Army first, because we didn't come up inches short this weekend. Go Army. There you go. There you go. Yep, I think Mr. Mike Wright was there. But, you know, I say also for a joint service family, when you writ large, you see the Coast Guard, the Air Force, every service, I think I saw in the bio minus the Marine. So, you know, I come from a joint family. We don't have a Marine yet. I know you'll probably find it deep down in your heart to find someone who will serve in that capacity. But again, on behalf of Waterview Lead Arsenal, we just want to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for everything that you do for the community, that your family upholds, that your grandfather upholds, and then what you're going to pass forward to continue his legacy. So I have something for you, Sergeant Major, and then for the young one right next to you.
Thank you, Colonel Fisher. John Rotano from our Rensselaer County Honor Deceased Veteran Committee will present our plaque at this time. Will the committee members please rise? Thank you, John. Please stand for our closing prayer. Skip Diamond will play taps. Retire the colors. This concludes our Honor a Vet ceremony for this month. Thank you for coming to honor our deceased veteran of the month of December, Henry G.A. Higa. Please join us for our next Honor a Veteran ceremony, which is scheduled for March 13th at a new location of the Legislative Chambers, 99 Troy Road, East Greenbush. Due to our upcoming move, we will not have an Honor a Deceased Veteran ceremony for the months of January or February 2023. Before we go our separate ways, we'll take a few family photos, and the flag will be raised outside at a different time. Thank you all again.